Welcome back into another edition of Kolby's Corners live here from Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Down here on the field, joined alongside Matej of BT Scoop 24/7 Sports, following Virginia Tech's 24-11 loss to South Carolina. First off, Matej, first initial impressions of just everything in the game.
Yeah, I hope you guys can hear me. Obviously, a lot going on in the background over here. But initial takeaways is that Virginia Tech really hung in there. Offensively, couldn't really get things going. Kyron Drones struggled a bit. Price said the receivers dropped some balls. They were disappointed with the red zone opportunities. And ultimately, that pick from Kyron Drones in the first half, trying to force a throw that he shouldn't have. Price said he should have moved on from that. But all things considered, I thought defense played a hell of a game. Obviously, things unraveled in the fourth quarter. And then obviously John Love being a reliable weapon, kept the Hokies in the game.
I think that was the biggest thing, not capitalizing on the opportunities in the red zone. You talk about John Love, that's a great asset to have as a compliment, but ideally, probably even talk about the pressure we'll get to with more coverage on PT Scoop, but you got to convert some of those field goals into touchdowns, especially in a game like this when the crowd's against you. But then you also bring up Cephas. I thought the defense, and we talked to Kamari Copeland, we talked to Emmett Laws, for the first two quarters, they kind of dominated that line of scrimmage. I mean, really dominant force. Kamari Copeland was making holes the entire time, internal pressure. They got the Sellers. I mean, now in the fourth quarter, you saw him get his elusiveness, be able to break out of some sacks. But still, I think that defense really showed some things. Obviously, they're going to take their licks, but what do you think about that defensive performance against
I was really impressed with the defense as a whole. I was talking to Kolby during the game. I thought they showed a lot of different things. And then not only that, but you heard from some of the guys in the press conference from Kamari Copeland. He was crediting J.C. Price for how deep they were. It wasn't just Kamari Copeland. It wasn't just Kelvin Gilliam. It was Emmett Laws making the plays.
Yeah, it's a big safety down here. Obviously, that was right after the Drones play where it's sort of a head scratcher because you take 3 points there, just throw it away. Drones said he saw Ty Heath in the back of the end zone. He just said as soon as it left his hand, he knew it was going to get there. Obviously, that's a play he'd like to have back. Pride talked about how that was one he was really disappointed in. When you see that, that's just one going back across your body into coverage and actually picked off by Fred J.R. Johnson, Norfolk, Virginia, Maury recruit. He had himself quite a day on the other side of the ball. At times I think South Carolina's offense, obviously on that initial drive, really got in rhythm, but they really stalled out in that entire first half. Virginia Tech was right there until the fourth quarter.
100%. And, they were neck and neck, and then obviously the fourth quarter comes around. They said they were missing a guy on the line. That's why they had the illegal formation for the punt. Obviously, you don't like to see those first game penalties, especially one where it can be such a punishing play right after. And obviously to see Beamer ball South Carolina style against Virginia Tech, that was a tough one. And then, that big bomb, you knew that South Carolina had the guys to make those explosive plays. And, of course, it just had to be Lenora Sellers and Nick Harper.
When you get into it, the Beamer ball play, obviously it comes from the penalty, which you've seen today. On that first, I think it was the first drive, the false start, they get backed up. Obviously, the 3 drops from Aiden Green, Hawkins on the third down, it's Kai Heath. You had other penalties that really cost them, but none more than that punt return, where they make you go repunt. The guys that get called down to the far side because they think it's a timeout, they just sprint back, line up, and then go run again. You saw the Gunners maybe didn't go full effort and get pinched, so it allowed them to go up the sideline and obviously score. And that was sort of took the breath out of the entire building. Obviously not for that side. Sandstorm played shortly after that. Really invigorated the Gamecocks crowd. But that was definitely tough. And then you see Sellers, really you just have to throw on time. Nick Harper really beat him over the top.
Yeah.
And that's not even to mention the first play of Nick Harper with Tyson Flowers punching it out right on the sideline, almost as a second touchdown of the day. So I think overall the defense really held up its end of the bargain for 3 1/4 the offense just really couldn't find its rhythm all day and couldn't really pay it off with touchdowns when you got down to the red zone.
For sure. And I think, offensively, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It wasn't a great performance. I give a ton of credit to South Carolina. I know, again, Kyron was saying, we're not good enough to the point where we can shoot ourselves in the foot. And that definitely played a huge factor in the success today. You think about the sack from Dylan Stewart, all of a sudden taking the penalty to push you back 15 more yards, takes them out of rhythm. But I will say if there are positives on the offensive side of the ball, you kind of, coming into this game, you worried about what does Virginia Tech have at wide receiver? You bring some guys in. But I thought there were a lot of very impressive plays from the wide receivers.
You talk about Aiden Green, Donovan Green. I know Kai Heath had the drop. He showed some flashes. Cam Selden. You really liked what you saw from out of those some wide receivers. But specifically talking about that O-line, you talked about Dylan Stewart. He got hurt initially. He actually got hurt kind of shoving Kyron on one play.
Shoulder.
And then comes back in. Was going up against Tomas Remack at right tackle all day. Really, really had a tough time handling Dylan Stewart. What did you see out of the O-line as a whole?
Yeah, I thought it was in the beginning. Obviously, it took a little bit of time for the O-line to get really going. Again, apologies. Doing some
live television.
Live here. But yeah, I thought they did a good job for the most part. But at the end of the, by the end of the game, I thought that the most impressive unit on the field was definitely South Carolina's defensive line. And I think Virginia Tech's offensive line held up for the most part, only allowed 2 sacks. And that's probably the best defensive line that Virginia Tech's going to see all year.
I mean, I think both defensive lines were the best units on the field, respectively. Going up against both offensive lines, you saw the Hokies rotate 10, 11 deep, be fresh the entire game. You saw the Gamecocks the same thing. Jerome just always flush out of the pocket. I can see the comments. I know that's going to be a lot of what it is. This team's only going to go as far as the quarterback takes them, but he wasn't always set up in the best situation, obviously, when you're flushed out of the pocket. Yeah. There's obviously a lot of other things, like that decision down in the red zone, a lot of other decisions. But, I mean, he was under duress for quite a bit of the game. Outside of the offensive line, obviously we know depth is an issue, but talk about the running back, Marcellus Hawkins.
Yeah.
In his first nod at the FBS level, let alone moving up from D2.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed. It looks like he belongs. Obviously, you don't have Stewart playing this game. He's out with his injury.
Yep.
But I thought he did the most with what he had. They tried to run him between the tackles a lot in the first half, and then I thought in the second half, you saw a little bit more variety. They're bringing guys like PJ Prelude, Jeremiah Coney. I don't think we saw Braden Bennett at all, but I thought that Hawkins did a pretty good job. And the thing that I liked about the running game, while it wasn't the most effective, especially considering that South Carolina's front was just so disruptive, that Monty found ways to, we're going to go outside the tackle. We're going to find ways to create more of a run game. And I thought that they adjusted a little bit better in the second half.
At linebacker, obviously another great question. I thought it was, obviously they look a little inexperienced at times, but I thought Antoine Santiago and Michael Short honestly had decent plays. Now, they bounced off Sellers a couple times on different plays, but overall, I think a decent showing.
You think about Sellers last year, there's guys in the SEC that can't bring that guy down. And you think about the linebackers as a whole, there are definitely some plays that they missed. Caleb Woodson missed a couple plays there, but
the big one on the opening drive with Sellers.
But I thought, Jaden Keller as well, but I thought Jaden Keller was a key piece on one of those big sacks. So it was a little bit of inconsistency. Obviously, I give a lot of credit to Sellers. But I think, as a whole, they got to clean up the tackling, but that's kind of what you expect in a week 1 performance.
I feel like they subbed way more in this one game than they did all last year. It would go from one look, you'd have Flowers and Reddish out there at safety, then Jordan Bass was in, and Santiago, Woodson. They were all sort of moving around. What'd you see out of the DBs? Obviously, the play with Harbor, a couple other plays, Dante Love, a penalty on the side. What'd you see from them?
Yeah, I think, like you said, for the most part, they kind of lock guys down. I think most of South Carolina's success in the passing game came from things that were underneath. Really, outside that Nick Harbor play, I can't think of too many where, guys are getting beat, or you see like anything from the. And I thought a lot of rotation. We saw Christian Williams as well, Thomas Williams. I thought they did a really good job rotating guys, and it didn't look like there was too much of a drop off. That really, with the whole defensive unit, you could put guys in and out, and you're competing against a top-rated SEC team.
They only had 4 guys catch passes. We talked about Donovan Murph, who was a former teammate of Virginia Tech quarterback A.J. Brand at Irmo, had 1 catch. Obviously, Nick Harver with the big game. And then Brady Hunt and the running back, Oscar Attaway.
Yeah.
So up until that fourth quarter, when I know Sellers sort of broke out a little bit, they really did do a good job limiting him in the passing game. And also, I think, pitching him and not letting him break away. And now I'm saying that the fourth quarter did happen, and you saw those plays where Copeland bounced off him, and he chased him down and still didn't catch him, first down. But overall, I don't think that was a motor issue. I just think he's a really dynamic athlete. He's going to get his.
Yeah, and he made that throw. He made that play. Again, it was the 2 most exciting players on the field were going to be Sellers and Nick Harper, capable at any point of breaking the top, and they got one. But you think about all the other defensive plays, I really think Virginia Tech's defense did a really good job at containing, and you talk about it's the first drive of the game, they score a touchdown. 1 play wonder to Nick Harper, they score a touchdown. Outside of that, it was really hard for them to sustain drives. It felt like there were so many punts from South Carolina. There's many ample opportunities for Virginia Tech to really start to take command of the game, and it was just the offense didn't do it, but the defense kept responding.
I mean, it was a 2-point game there for felt like forever. And Brian brought that up. We just had to keep it one score, and the offense just kind of got stymied. Okay, so for you, we're going to have a bunch of content coming out on btscoop.com over this next week. Obviously, injuries are a big thing with Terran Stewart's availability, other guys' availabilities moving forward. But for you, what's the biggest thing just right now, initially after hearing from Pry, after watching this, that you want to see in the Vanderbilt game?
Yeah, it definitely needs to be more offensive rhythm, taking advantage of the red zone opportunities. I thought there were a couple drives today where you felt Virginia Tech gaining that momentum. Big chunk plays to either one of the greens, to Kai Heath, and then all of a sudden they stall out. You want to see them build on that. Stop settling for field goals time after time. Like, it's really your concerns here are the offense. I think after this game, you feel pretty good that the defense can handle a lot of the dual threats that they're going to see, especially next week.
And I think it's worth mentioning with the offense, I thought Montgomery called a pretty fair game.
Yeah.
Like, I just think a lot of it ties into execution. Obviously, that starts with the quarterback, and Kyron will probably own that later this week, and we'll have some quotes and comments coming out of his press conference soon on btscoop.com. But yeah, it starts with his effectiveness, because I thought Montgomery really set him up to maybe have really good looks throughout the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought Virginia Tech's offense definitely looked different. There's a lot of one-on-one fades there. I thought they trusted their wide receivers.
A lot of one-on-one matchups.
Yeah, exactly. You know? I thought that they schemed that well. And then, like I was talking about before, I thought when the run game wasn't really working inside the tackles, they started to go outside the tackles. I thought there was a lot of adjustments there. And I thought Montgomery put Kyron in positions to succeed. Yep. It was just obviously misexecution, penalties, and then failing in the red zone.
When he did execute on the Aiden Green ball, it's a penalty on a chop block.
Right.
Or Donovan Green, they just make a big gain, and then Donovan Green with the personal foul. It's just, you couldn't really get out of their way, and you can't do that, let alone against a top 15 opponent.
100%. And even you think about that one play where Kyron's evading all the defenders, and he looks down the field, and Aiden Green is wide open. It was a 60-yard throw after evading pressure, and you think if Aiden Green can lay out, or you just connect on that play, that starts to build the confidence.
But I mean, that was an incredible play. Like, I know obviously 15-35, 2 interceptions, Leslie plays out there, but still to move back left and even put that ball close. I thought that was a pretty great read. I know he took his looks on the board for that play. But yeah, we'll have a bunch of content heading into before Vanderbilt. Do you have any other comments for?
Yeah, I think heading into this year, I think a lot of us didn't quite know what to expect from Virginia Tech. I think a majority of the people expected this one to be a little bit closer with week one woes, but I thought for the most part that Virginia Tech's defense made South Carolina earn it rather than it was South Carolina being a rusty week one team. So I'm very encouraged by the defense, encouraged by the special teams. I know they gave up the touchdown and that was a mistake there, but overall I think there's a lot of things to like on that side. It's just going to be harped on offense and Kyron Drones. The team goes as far as Kyron goes, and obviously he didn't deliver to his standard today.
It's like you said, no pats on the back, but you can definitely take some things. Like, it's not just South Carolina, because you saw him start humming there at the end. Like, that's a dynamic offense. I think you have to be really pleased with how the defense played for 3.5 quarters moving forward. So that'll be all. Appreciate everyone tuning in for the coverage here from Atlanta. Appreciate you sticking out for my flu game. Sorry, hopefully I'm back.
Shout out to Kolby. I mean, this guy was down in the dumps. He's been here for 9 hours. Doesn't take a day off. Wouldn't miss it for the world.
Well, here we go. Have some more coverage for you over on btscoop.com. Appreciate everyone jumping in here. Another one of these maybe tomorrow night or Tuesday. Make sure to stay tuned in. Running a great promo over on the site. And, yeah, we'll see you next week in Lane Stadium. Short week. See y'all next time.